Ahoy, you filthy swines! Welcome to what the bloody oink is going on. And let's read some stuff. I've often heard the phrase, humanity is a species with amnesia. There's an awful lot of history that's unrecorded if we're supposed to be led to believe that humans, as we are at the moment, have been around for 250,000 years. It's quite a while. So what happened before recorded history? Classically, we're led to believe we were just a bunch of unga bungas living in caves, eating dead rats, hanging out with feral saber-toothed tigers, and generally living a Flintstones life. I'm not sure that's true. One of the recurring themes of particularly biblical records of the past is of the existence of giants. And I tend to think this might have some value in it because all you have to do is look back and see how many super large animals there were during the Ice Age, all these megafauna that existed in North America and elsewhere that disappeared after the cataclysm and the floods of the Younger Dryas. So it stands to reason in a way that perhaps humans themselves were also much larger in the past. I think it makes sense. But anyway, this article on New York Post, written by Fabiana Buontempo. It's a wonderful name, madam. If you are a madam, I don't know, you might be a man. Resurfaced 3,300-year-old Egyptian document hints at biblical giants being real. I think they are. I think along with these giant megafauna, there were giant people. I think there's a biological term for it as well. I know the last mammoths to have existed were on an Arctic island north of where Russia is at the moment. And they were very small because the island itself was very small and they didn't have much food. So the size of animals tends to go in line with the quantity of food that they have. Anyway, let's shut up and read, shall we? Historians are scratching their heads at a resurfaced Egyptian scroll held by the British Museum that might support the claim that biblical giants were in fact real. Genesis chapter 6 of the Bible is about God's response to the widespread human wickedness and corruptness which was supposedly caused by Nephilim, powerful beings that were the sons of fallen angels and human women. It was these sons who were described as giant beings and referred to as men of renown that caused widespread chaos which prompted God to cleanse the earth by destroying all creatures under the sky with flood waters. So there's a connection there between there being giants, there then being a giant flood, and the fact that they were swept away. There is evidence, whether it's legitimate or not, of giants in Arizona, I think, in a cave in Arizona or somewhere southwest United States, and some very large shoes were found there. Anyway, fast forward to now. Anastasia I, a 3,300-year-old document that has been in the British Museum since 1839 and has reignited the interest of the Associates for Biblical Research, a religious organization in Pennsylvania, has historians and researchers believing that these men of renown, giants, may have actually been real. I think they may have been. You can get some quite large people nowadays, but perhaps there was a lineage of people in the past that have now become extinct. The ancient document, which is believed to be from the 13th century BCE, mentions run-ins with a Shusu people who were supposedly 8 feet tall, which scared Israelites as originally reported by the Daily Mail. To connect the dots that Anastasia I is proof beyond what is said in the Bible that giants existed, Numbers 13:33, a verse from the Old Testament, also hints at Israelites coming across these large figures. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which came of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. I don't exactly know what that means. They're seeing stuff though. The scroll, which researchers believe to be a letter written by a scribe, says the narrow defile is infested with sushu concealed beneath the bushes. Some of them are 4 cubits or 5 cubits from head to foot. Fierce of face, their heart is not mild, and they hearken not to coaxing. 4 cubits and 5 cubits translates to a figure close to 8 feet tall. With all that being said, historians remain skeptical as there is reportedly no physical proof or archaeological evidence that giants once existed. Yes, but if they once existed before the floods, then any burials, any graveyards would be under the waves now, wouldn't they? On the flip side, claims of supersized humans from Central America roaming a remote town 90 miles northeast of Reno, Nevada, are still baffling scientists all these years later. Is that where it was? In Nevada. While many believe these red-headed, pale-skinned giants to be legends, some reports of discoveries, like when a pair of miners allegedly came across 60 human skeletons, some measuring between 7 and 8 feet tall, say otherwise. What's this claim here? Let's follow that through, shall we? Scientists still baffled from giant human skeletons up to 10 feet tall decades after initial discovery. By Snejana Farberov, a series of mysterious giant skeletons up to 10 feet tall, reportedly discovered in and around Nevada caves last century, dubbed Giants of Lovelock, are still baffling scientists decades later. The claims about supersized humans who roam the area around Lovelock, a remote town 90 miles northeast of Reno, thousands of years ago, are rooted in Native American lore, which tells of fierce, red-headed, pale-skinned giants who arrived from Central America by boat and attacked local tribes. After years of war, the foreign invaders were chased into a cave and slaughtered en masse, according to stories passed down by the indigenous Paiute people. Well, red hair suggests that they might be connected in some way to the Norse. And we know that there are records of Vikings in Northern America quite a while before Columbus got there. So maybe the ancestors of the Norse were much more widespread. Maybe they themselves were the Atlanteans. Experts believe the tale of giant warriors' violent extermination is likely a legend, but reports of discoveries made in the area of Lovelock decades ago have continued to raise many unanswered questions. The first foray into Lovelock Cave was made in 1911, when a pair of miners searching for guano, or bat excrement used as fertilizer, allegedly unearthed 60 human skeletons, including some measuring between 7 and 8 feet tall. Blimey. That's quite tall, similar to the biblical records then. The extraordinary find was mentioned in a 1935 biography of mining engineer John T. Reed, but no evidence proving the existence of the gargantuan remains ever materialized, reported the magazine Archaeology World. However, two subsequent excavations that were carried out in 1912 and 1924 brought to light thousands of ancient artifacts. Among them, a well-worn sandal measuring an astonishing 15 inches in length, which is equivalent to a modern-day size 29 shoe. So if you really were that big, if you were a massive so-and-so, and your body needed that much food and you couldn't find it, would that not equal malnutrition and perhaps lowered life expectancy? And if you were a race of giants who could no longer find adequate food, perhaps that's why they became extinct. For comparison, retired NBA star Shaquille O'Neal, who stands 7 feet 1 inch tall, wears size 22 shoes. Okay, so 29, what, we're going to add an extra foot? Is it going to be 8 or 9 foot tall? Pretty bloody tall. Radiocarbon dating later placed human bone fragments and plant material found in the cave between 2030 BC and 1218 BC. Another surprising discovery made inside the Lovelock cave was a handprint embedded in the rock face that measured twice the size of an average human palm. Some years later, an article published in the Nevada Review Minor in 1931 announced the discovery of two mummified skeletons in a dry lake outside Lovelock. The remains reportedly measured 8.5 and 10 feet. Blimey, I don't think there's any contemporary people who have been as high as 10 foot, I don't think, and were described as having red hair. There we go, red hair again. I think they're Vikings. I think they are the ancestors of the Vikings who were once the Atlanteans. Maybe. I'm making that all up, but maybe. Although some experts believe the red tint of the hair could have been caused by exposure to the environment, the appearance of the skeletons dovetails with the Paiute tribe's stories about a group of giant red-headed barbarians known as the CT-Ka. Oh, so they're the barbarians, are they? And the Indians were the civilized ones, okay. Even though the Indians were the ones that killed them all. But of course, the red-headed giants are the barbarians. Legend has it that the CT-Ka came to Nevada from a distant land some 3,000 years ago after crossing the ocean in boats made from the bulrush plant. The fierce newcomers were said to have attacked the local inhabitants, unleashing a bloody, years-long conflict. Finally, the various tribes in the area joined forces to hunt down and exterminate the barbarians, according to the Paiute stories. The last of the red-haired giants was said to have sought refuge in the Lovelock Cave, but the shelter ended up being their tomb after the natives fired arrows at them and started a fire in the mouth of the cavern. The story goes that all the giants were slaughtered in the attack. I guess history is written by the victors, and the Indians were the victors, so of course they were the good guys. The tale of the towering Orban-locked barbarians echoed a legend that Spanish conquistador Pedro Ciez de Leon recorded in 16th century, retelling an ancient Peruvian tale about a race of giants who came by sea in rafts of reeds after the manner of large boats. Some of the men were so tall that from the knee down they were as big as the length of an ordinary fair-sized man, De Leon wrote in Chronicles del Peru. Well, I think there's some credibility in that. I think there's a lot of evidence of our prehistory hidden under the waves, and perhaps these were some of the last remnants of an offshoot of humanity that were very large. And there are, I think, records in the Bible of them being cannibals, so perhaps they were pretty fierce and predating on smaller humans. I don't know. If you were that big and healthy, because very, very tall contemporary humans that are that tall are not generally healthy. Their hearts aren't strong enough to keep their circulation going properly. So these larger humans would have to have quite a different physiology, I imagine. Not an expert, but I'm guessing there. I think that's fascinating. And I'd love to know more. Is it possible to do some kind of archaeological dig under the waves? Get some diving bells down there and start digging through the silt and see what there is on some of these ancient coastlines. If you try and find some kind of ancient river estuary, maybe some outflow to the ocean, see if you can find anything there. I know there's interesting locations like the Bimini Road and all sorts of stuff in and around the Caribbean. That's fascinating. I like that stuff. But that is it for now. Make sure you hit the like button if you like me. Subscribe if you like me long time. But for now, the only thing I have left to say is Pigwig out.
Oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oink, oink, wee, squeal, snort, snort, oinkity, squee. Oink, 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 squee, squee, wee, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 wee, 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 oh. Snort, snuffle, oink, squee, squeal, wee, snort, oinky, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, wee, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, 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 squee, squee, wee, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 wee, 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 oh. Oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, wee, squee, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, 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 squee, squee, wee, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 wee, 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 oh. Squeal, squeal. Snort, snuffle, oink, re, squeal, re, snort, oinky, oinkity, oink, 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 snuffle, re, squee, snort, oink, squeal, oink, oink, oinkity, squee, squee, re, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, oink, oink.